Welcome to Never Show the Monster. I'm Kelly Attaway.
I'm Chelsea Hollander.
And today we are talking about The Brood. And this is a continuation of our theme on Tulpas. This is a Cronenberg flick, which I didn't realize. It's about family drama.
Husband and wife going through something. There's a child in between.
Yep. She is in some sort of experimental therapy, and he is solo parenting, and shit gets crazy.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Thank you.
I also wanted to talk about what brood was, because I didn't know the definition of brood prior to this, but it's a family of young animals, especially of a bird, produced at one hatching or birth.
So has it been rude every time I've described somebody's pack of children as a brood? Has that been rude?
I mean, it depends on how you feel about birds. I like birds.
No, I love birds. I worry that I have been conjuring up images of Cronenberg's creations this whole time.
Oh, yeah, probably. Another way to describe it, I think he even described it like this, is a horror version of Kramer vs. Kramer.
Yeah, I saw that those were coming out at the same time. Mm-hmm. And Cronenberg was like, I don't like the sound of that. I got to make mine real. I don't know Kramer versus Kramer.
I don't know Kramer versus Kramer, but I do know the Marriage Story with Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. Oh. And they say that that's like a modern version of Kramer versus Kramer.
I only know the Adam Driver meme.
Of him screaming?
Yeah, and hitting the wall.
Another thing is the inspiration for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote it following his divorce and child custody battle with his ex-wife. And he based a lot of the character Nola after his ex-wife. And I was like, yeah, that's mean. Whew. I mean, I've had some people say bad things about me after a breakup, but I haven't had people create entire movies just completely making me seem like the craziest person ever.
He also said that Frank was loosely based on himself. And
Frank seems like a super nice guy, but also a little, what is it when you don't pay attention to things?
Negligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that Frank seemed great in this either. Honestly, nobody seemed good in this movie.
I liked one character.
Which one?
The one with the throat.
Okay, he was funny at least.
Well, if you can be funny, then I'm gonna like you.
Yeah, he's a weirdo. We'll get to him. So, yes, I did read that this is largely considered Cronenberg's first good movie.
Oh, really?
And I meant to look up. I'm going to pull up
Videodrome was before that.
Well, Videodrome is good.
Yeah, it was like 2 movies before that. That's what I thought, and I was like, oh, that's why I'm shocked that that's what they said.
That's
I mean,
funny.
It's good. I mean, if we're gonna jump into how we felt about it, I liked it.
I did too.
I at first was like trying to suss out if I liked it, and it took me a second. There were things that I don't like about it, but all in all, it was a fun ride.
Yeah, it's definitely older. You know, God, The Fly is before this.
No, The Fly is after.
Sorry, I'm looking at actor. Hold on. Do people not like Shivers?
I didn't watch Shivers.
I haven't seen it either, but I thought that people liked it. No, Videodrome is after The Brood.
Okay, is it 2 after? Maybe that's my bad.
Oh, I do remember that Shivers. Yeah, maybe this was a bad movie. Maybe Brood is his
first good one.
Yeah. I haven't seen Shivers, but here's the description. The residents of a suburban high-rise apartment building are being infected by a strain of parasites that turn them into mindless, sex-crazy fiends out to infect others by the slightest sexual contact. So,
all right.
Yeah. Yeah,
all right.
Probably The Brood was his first good movie. I also Cronenberg, when I think of Cronenberg, I typically think of sci-fi rather than horror.
Yeah, I feel like he crosses that, right?
I guess he does, yeah.
I guess every now and then he does reach over, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so just good for him. I like the idea of taking a custody battle and turning it into a horror movie that isn't about interpersonal drama. I guess this is about interpersonal drama, but not.
But it's about
not normal.
I mean, it takes the interpersonal drama into the outer
It is outer. It's outer for
Yeah.
sure.
It's no longer inner. It becomes an outer.
Yeah.
I wasn't say I just really liked it. I thought it was, at the beginning I was like, I don't know if I'm going to want to follow this movie. At the beginning it kind of has like, it doesn't have a slow warm up, but I was like, is this going to be one where is this going to be a Dark and the Wicked again? Am I going to feel like I need to analyze a lot of stuff about my life based on what they're saying? And by the end I was like, no, I don't need to analyze shit. Thanks.
No analyzing needed. I at least knew that it was mostly a monster movie, essentially.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any panic leading up to it. What I was worried about is 70s cinema. Yeah. I was like, it's going to be like...
But then you were like, the decor, the outfits, everything looks so good.
I am going to want to talk about some decor very soon. I don't know. I worried that it was going to be like no real monster or anything. And then at the end, they'd be like, it was a monster.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, and I'm so glad that's... Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. It was very... It got going pretty early on. Like, I thought it was going to take too long for that to burn in. And then, like, it took less than 50% of the film to finally start, like, ramping things up, which is kind of impressive. I thought it was going to wait until the end.
And it's for sure weird from the start. And that's pretty typical.
Released in 1979, 1 hour, 32 minutes. I wanted to add that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's snappy. It doesn't take long.
So whenever we talk about the 70s, and everything was beautiful.
Yeah, it looks
all
great.
The clothes, all the hair.
Oh my God, the hair. Okay. Let's get into it. So the main characters of this movie are Hal Raglan, and he is the psychotherapist who has founded a place called Soma Free, wherein he preaches and practices psychoplasmics. So not going to get super far into what those mean just yet, but the basic idea is Soma Free is like a live-in. It's a residential, I don't even want to say hospital. Like, yeah,
it's not really. It's
summer camp for adults who want to dig out their inner demons and deal with childhood trauma. And psychoplasmics is this idea that Hal Raglan has pioneered that is basically like you can work through your inner trauma by physicalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is Nola, and she is a
she's the wife that we're
she's the wife. She is pretty troubled, and she is Hal's patient. She lives at Soma Free at the moment. And Frank is Nola's husband, and he is trying to get sole custody of their kid, Candace. Quick note about Frank. He looks like Topher Grace. He looks like Topher Grace. He looks like Topher Grace. He looks like Topher Grace if Topher Grace like ever filled out as a grown-up.
Okay, gotcha.
You know? Like, you know how Topher Grace is like super skinny? If he ever broadened, he would look like Frank.
Isn't like you have the like Topher Grace, Tobey Maguire, Jake Gyllenhaal. So would Jake Gyllenhaal be the filled out version?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Are you saying that Topher Grace looks like Jake Gyllenhaal?
I mean, I'm trying to go through the process because...
Are these Pokemon? Sorry, what was the second phase?
What was the second one? Tobey Maguire? Doesn't everyone, like, there's, like, things about them all three looking the same?
No.
That's why he played Venom.
That's a hard disagree from me. Who played Venom? None of those three played Venom.
Topher Grace played Venom.
In the movie Venom?
No, in the movie Spider-Man 3.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't remember? He played the best Venom.
No, I never saw Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 was the emo one with the musical scene?
Spoiler, Topher Grace is Venom.
Okay, so were they supposed to look the same in the movie?
They're not supposed to look the same. Eddie Brock isn't really supposed to look like him. My brain did things that maybe wasn't the intent. But I mean, you get those weird lists that come up that are like, people can't tell these two actors apart. And then they choose two very similar pictures of the actors.
Did you see that meme of what I'm convinced is 9 pictures of Margot Robbie with the caption, "You can't tell me not all of these are Margot Robbie." Like, you can't tell me that these are 9 different actresses and not Margot Robbie.
Wait, is that real?
Yeah, that exists. And I swear to God, I stared at that image and I was like, I see 2 separate actresses here.
Because there's the one girl who's in the one where she got married.
Yeah.
And then the family. That's the one. Samari Weaving.
She's in there. So it's 6 actresses.
But is it just a bunch of Samari Weaving? Oh, okay. Let me look at this. I'm looking at it.
I guess I can see 3 unique faces.
The one on the bottom right is Joe Dirt, the girl from Joe Dirt.
That's not Margot Robbie.
Correct.
Which one is Margot Robbie?
Top left.
Are you sure?
No.
So center top is the married one. The one from the Married movie, right?
No, bottom left.
So center top is Margot Robbie.
See, I thought maybe, but I think that it might be the one on the left and it's an unflattering picture. And I think that that's part of the trick. I don't think the bottom middle looks like her at all. Is that going to be her?
That would be funny. No, I know who bottom middle is. I don't know her name, but she is from Sex Education.
Okay. She was the bottom right. She's not the bottom right. You're wrong.
I think she's bottom right.
She wasn't the bottom right. No, she's not. She's 100% not. Margot Robbie is the one in the middle. Jamie King is the top left. So you're right. She is the one in the top middle. We're going to have to edit this part. I wouldn't have known I would have said the bottom right was her if I didn't know exactly what movie that was from.
Yeah, Joe Dirt, real big for you. Pivotal movie.
Oh, yeah. Fucking love that movie. Yeah, it was.
You know who else I get confused? Isla Fisher and Amy Adams.
I don't understand how people get those confused.
I don't anymore. Like, they have since diverged. But 15 years ago?
I always felt like they had very, very different faces. Amy Adams looked very similar to somebody else, but it wasn't Isla Fisher.
Amy Adams looks like Pam from The Office.
No, I don't think that either.
Oh, it's usually these 3 that I see as like, can you tell these apart? And I'm like,
what did we just say her name was?
Isla Fisher?
No, Amy Adams, right? Is that the name?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but we had said it so many times that my brain was like, this isn't real. You know, like we talked about in Empty Man. Yeah, I was like, it's not real look-alike. There's one specific person, but it wasn't Isla Fisher. And I could tell them apart. Everyone's saying Isla Fisher, so everyone feels that way. Oh, no. The one I'm thinking of is Bryce Dallas Howard and the girl who looks like Bryce Dallas Howard. Jessica Chastain. Yeah. Yeah, those are the 2. Those are the 2 for me.
You are absolutely right. How many things have I seen Bryce Dallas Howard in and just assumed it was Jessica Chastain?
Probably 50% of them.
What has she done?
What has Bryce Dallas Howard done?
Yeah, she's very pretty.
She's in The Help. She's in Jurassic World, Rocket Man, Arrested Development, an episode of Black Mirror.
I think that's the only thing I know her from.
Breaking Dawn.
What's that?
The 4th in the Twilight Saga. 3rd? 4th. Oh, she's in the 3rd and the 4th.
She was in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, she was.
Fully, I Googled Bryce Dallas Howard and I was like, that's Jessica Chastain.
Yep.
So that meme
that's the
must
one that
exist.
I get confused with. Yeah. Okay. This is why I'm confused because she came up for The Help as well.
They're both in The Help?
I don't think so.
Do you think that one
I think that somebody is messing with us. No, they're both in it. She plays Hilly Holbrook and the other one plays Cecilia Foote.
Oh, yep. So they are.
Oh, she has brown hair in it, though. Bryce Dallas Howard has brown hair. You couldn't put them with the same hair color because then nobody would know
no.
who was on screen.
Just confused the whole time.
Anyway, let's get back to the movie. Yeah. I am sorry that we have Topher Grace this.
I really meant that to be like a one-liner.
I'm sorry, it's still good. I'm looking at pictures of him, and it is full on Topher Grace. I see what you're saying when you say it's filled out. He looks like I've been watching, what's the one? Home Economics, is that the show he's in now?
Couldn't tell you.
I've been watching that lately, and I'm like, oh, this guy looks like an older Topher Grace. Mm-hmm. But I feel like he's got to be younger than Topher Grace is in this show now.
Well, but the 70s were a different time. Everybody
Everyone's
so much younger. So not to bring up another meme, but I...
Please do, though.
Oh, and I'm going to get the movie wrong.
Oh, I love this game. What happens? What happens in the movie?
Which horror movie is Wilford Brimley in? Where Cocoon?
Okay, I don't like this name anymore.
I don't know. So I think it's the horror movie Cocoon, and it's about like a group of just ancient men, so old, and they find like a way to feel young again. I forget, but it's monsters and they get scooped into a cocoon. But like a plot point of the movie is that they are ancient. And there's a meme about how Paul Rudd is now older than Wilford Brimley was in that movie, but he's like still a total babe. Like people just age differently these days.
Yeah,
We figured out skincare.
wow.
I don't know. Or like how in Cheers, the like barflies who look like they're mid 50s are 32 in Cheers.
No.
Yeah, like we just figured out aging, I think. So the next character is their kid, Candace, otherwise known as Candy. She's weird. She's weird the whole way through. And then the final main character is Canada.
Who's Canada?
The country in which the movie is set.
Oh.
Yeah. Surprise. Cronenberg is Canadian. And so is this movie. And that's why they are in snowsuits the entire thing.
Which it made me really want to get a snowsuit. Oh, that makes more sense. Okay, I'm glad that you explained that. I'm sure did they mention they were in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just briefly. Somebody
okay,
was
good.
like,
that makes me feel
winter
better.
in
I was like, I
Halifax.
thought I paid.
I can't remember.
I paid attention, so I would have hoped. Oh, the movie was also called Chromosome 3.
You doing research on the fly? Is this live
No,
research?
I pulled up pictures because I wanted to see if he looks like Topher Grace.
He does.
So I agree. I'm looking at these pictures, 100% agree.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's get into it.
Let's do it. So the movie opens with two men sitting crisscross applesauce facing each other on a stage in front of an audience. And they are wearing like flowy, unbleached linen tunics.
Mhm.
And one of the men is the sub and one is the dom. And the sub like can't make eye contact with the dom. And the dom is like, oh, you're just a little girl. I should call you Michelle instead of Michael. And Michael is calling him daddy.
Yeah.
And this is just a whole, it's like super misogynistic. Like the dom is like, oh, little girls can't make eye contact. Little girls can't be strong. Women can't be strong. Like you should be a little girl if you're not going to be strong.
Yep.
And what a way to start a movie. And so the sub is like going through something emotionally and he's yelling, I hate you, daddy. I hate you, daddy, but I love you, daddy. And the dom tells him, go all the way through it. Go all the way through it to the end. Don't stop halfway. And the sub rips open his shirt and he's got like blisters all over his body.
And I was going to say, as he's talking to him, you can slowly see them start to like appear. It looks like cigarette burns. And I was like, did he have those?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I wanted to talk about that because when he ripped open the shirt, I noticed them on his face too. And I was like,
weren't there.
Was I just not like, was I focused on the Michael Michelle thing and I just missed these? Oh, okay. So that explains. Okay. So while this was happening, I went through a lot of thoughts. I was like, is this a cult? And then I was like, oh no, it's a play because Frank comes in to the auditorium while they're doing this demonstration. And when it concludes, somebody in the audience says like, oh, he's a genius. And I was like, that's when I was like, oh, like, okay, it was a play. But then nobody claps. So I was like, okay, not a play. Anyway, this was a demonstration of Raglan's tactics. Raglan's,
therapy sessions structures. So I've recently read a book, which is probably a lot of people know about it, called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And there is I knew what it was almost immediately because there is a section inside of the book that talks about a therapy that's very similar to that. Where you have like a group of people and then you have another person represent the person that you have like an emotional feeling about, and it's a way to try to, because like it talks about if you ask them, and I think it's called like apologies.
Psychoplasmatics.
What? Psychoplasmatic? No, it's called like psychomotor therapy. So it's like it has to do with the body mind connection. So it's trying to put you in the physical presence of what's happening instead
that sounds
of
really dangerous.
So what it describes in the book isn't, I mean, obviously they're not making sores appear on their bodies.
No, but I mean just like putting somebody back in
that
like
situation.
Such a vulnerable spot.
So the difference is, and I think that this is a big thing to specify, because this is the part of the movie that I felt very uncomfortable about, is him presenting himself as that person, as presenting himself as the father and saying things to make him feel bad and saying things that he assumes the father, I think, would say.
Yeah.
In the therapy, it doesn't seem like that's the case. You put somebody, like, you're in a group therapy session kind of, and it's like you have an audience, but one person becomes the like surrogate for that person. I don't know if that's the correct term, but it becomes the placement for that person instead of doing like empty chair therapy where you try to talk to a chair about how you're feeling. But you talk to the person, and that person pretends to be the person that you're trying to speak to. And like this particular person that they talk about in the book is unwilling to open up about what happened to him. He would just say quick things about it. But whenever they put that person in front of him to be a representative of his father for the reason he was upset with his father, he was able to like release it. And they also had him every time the main person was saying something to show that he was angry at him, they asked the other person to act like they were being punched. So to make a physical response. So the person was then able to understand like they were allowed to feel and to get angry with them the way that they couldn't get angry with them prior. They didn't condone like actual physical violence, but they wanted them to that the words were creating an effect on the person and that they are allowed to express their feelings the way they need to. But the person in the book ended up not, I don't want to say healing from the trauma because I don't know what happened to them afterwards, but they did slowly get better after many sessions. But it goes through a bunch of different types of therapies in the sessions, and then how they've helped people and how they help people under certain circumstances. But this was a very interesting one. And when I read it in the book and when I was watching this, I was like, oh yeah, I read about that. But in this movie, the pain that you feel inside, which once again, the body keeps score. It talks about how the brain mind body connection, basically you can cause things to happen inside of your body because of the stress levels and things like that. Like obviously people are like, oh, I have an ulcer from all my stress, et cetera, things like that. But this is like an immediate reaction instead of like over a long amount of time. So like immediately Mike is just in sores. First, it looks like he has like cigarette burns, and then he has open bleeding sores on his body. And he's like, look what you did to me. This is how I feel. But I thought that was very...
So what you're describing still does not sound super legitimate to me. Like, I'm going to Google it later.
Yeah, go for it.
But it's definitely not legitimate in the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll even see later, Mike, like, kind of gets off on this. Like, this is daddy, both in, like, father and, like, kink way.
It becomes an addiction, and he talks about it being an addiction.
Yeah,
later.
yeah. And that's, like, if Raglan were a legitimate psychotherapist, like, he would, like, that's a boundary that you can't cross. Yeah. So this is not good for anybody. And so the demonstration ends and everybody is leaving the auditorium, and Frank sort of breaks off from the group and goes upstairs to find a little girl who looks like Caroline from Poltergeist. So she turns around, calls Frank daddy, which is like an immediate weird juxtaposition to what we just saw. Their relationship isn't weird. Their relationship is fine.
Yeah.
This is Candace. This is Frank's kid. He takes her outside and she is in her little snowsuit, which is bright red, and everybody else is in browns and khakis. So this is just like in Suspiria. You know she's important because she's highlighted on screen. And they go home. Little Candace is in the tub, taking a bath. And there is like some strong Mr. Bubble brand placement here.
I did see that. And I was like, oh, that looks like current label. Like,
I mean, why change what's working? You know,
it's perfect.
Like, it's perfect. It's
good job, Mr. Bubble.
It's great at
You
Bubble
stand the
Bath.
test of
That's
time.
why it's like the number one name. But I was like, this is a strange movie to get your brand placed in. Huh. They like somebody just pitched them like, yeah, it's a movie about a bunch of kids, and they were like,
Yeah,
Bubble
sure.
Bath.
Just put it in the background. It's good. We'll give you money.
Yep. But this is a bummer scene. It's not as happy-go-lucky as the CEO
Bubble
of
would have
Mr.
you
Bubble
believe.
thought. Yeah. Candace has like bruises and bite marks all over her back,
Yeah.
which Frank finds, and he immediately goes back to Soma Free to confront Raglan, who is the Dom from the weird demonstration at the start of the movie, and Raglan won't let him see his wife. He says that she is at a critical point in her therapy. She has to stay in isolation right now. And Frank is like, no, she hurt our kid, and that is unacceptable. You know what? If I can't talk to her, Candace isn't coming back. She has been visiting Nola on weekends, even during her isolation. And Frank is like, well, then we're ending that. And Raglan is like, there's no way that Nola hurt your kid. There's just no way. Something else must have happened.
I mean,
and
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Something else did happen. The next morning, Frank goes to his lawyer, and he's like, I want to keep Candy away from Nola. I want to keep Candy away from Soma Free and away from Raglan. And the lawyer is like, no, like, this isn't going to work. He says the law believes in motherhood. And Frank is like, well, okay, but what if I can like prove that Raglan is a bad guy and he has a history of hurting people through his therapy? And the lawyer is like, okay. Now you're on to something. So that's going to be like Frank's motive through the rest of the movie, is trying to collect these testimonials from other people who have experienced psychoplasmics. Frank goes to pick up Candy from school. You don't immediately know that it's a school. He just walks into a room, and on the wall next to him are the words in all caps, egg chart.
The editing in this movie, and I'm sure that this could be a thing of the 70s, it was very like, I feel like it was like, you couldn't continue the story without changing where you were. Like, you had to be in a different area. Like, it didn't stay at any location for more than like 10 seconds.
Yeah, we're
bopping
like,
another
around.
Another location.
We are bopping around for sure. When we discover that this is Candy's school, he passes the egg chart sign. That's not a part of the movie. It just was very distracting to me. He talks to the teacher, who is so cute. She's such a little cutie patootie. She's got like a little baby mullet, which are very in right now. But she has bad news. She's like, you missed the last PTA meeting or the last parent-teacher conference. Like, we need to talk about Candy. Yeah. So clearly, and like, we've seen her. She's weird. Of course the teacher wants to talk about her behavior. And now we have to change scenes again. Yep. Frank takes Candy to her maternal grandma's house. This is Nola's mom, and her name is Juliana. Juliana? And this woman is so pretty and young.
Yeah.
Like, we'll meet the grandpa later, and he's properly an old man. I mean, I guess he's like, you know, in his 40s, the way people aged in the 70s. But but like, this woman is like, looks like she's in her 40s.
Yeah, she could be, because she is Nola's mom, but she looks like maybe an older sister even.
Yeah, exactly. And she is sort of vacant. She's sort of out of it. And we're going to find out that she is totally a lush.
Is she? Does she actually drink it? Can we talk about that?
Well, she has to refresh her drink like 3 times.
She talks about it, but the drink never goes down, man. Well, she keeps adding stuff to it and never goes down.
No, it goes down, but it doesn't get empty. And as a fellow lush, that's key.
But I mean, every time she took a drink, I was like, that didn't even go high enough for liquid to enter her mouth. I remember whenever she's talking to Candy, and she's like, I need to go refresh. And I was like, that is half full. You didn't drink any of it.
No, I'm telling you,
Are you sure she's not a lush like me, where I'm like, I did drink all of this. It's fine. And then I hide it.
No, she's hiding it in a different way, which is that if you never let your glass get empty, nobody can count how many drinks you had.
That's a valid point.
So she's sort of rambling to Frank. She is talking about how Nola has like rebuilt the past,
yes.
and she doesn't even recognize herself in the past that Nola talks about anymore.
I did like the line here that said 30 seconds after your birth, you have a past, and 60 seconds after that, you start lying to yourself.
Yeah, and that's so bleak. And the reason she says that is because she tells Frank, Candy is doing the same thing to you right now. Like, she's only 5, you say? Doesn't matter. She started lying 60 seconds after her birth. She's already rebuilding what she's been going through. And that's so bleak. That's such a bummer way to look at things. And I don't even want to touch that. I don't want to touch it. I was just going to say that's a bummer. And we all need to reflect.
It is a bummer. I agree. I still like the line. I still thought it was a good line.
Great line. Great line. But as like a life philosophy.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah.
I got to take a step back.
Well, I tried to think about it a lot, and I was like, wow. Man, we're interpreting from our perspective. I guess nothing is objective.
Some things are objective.
Are they?
Yeah.
Like what?
Sun came up this morning.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Are we not in a simulation?
No.
Did it come up, or did we rotate?
So that's not a question about objectivity. That's a question about syntax.
Did it come up where you're at? Because I had clouds all day.
It still came up.
All right, I'm not going to win this one.
I don't know. I just felt like she like lingered and maybe looked a little expectantly. Maybe those actors had something going on.
Well, he did say later.
She had many lovers.
Yeah, maybe it was like a wink, wink. I mean, he probably didn't, but he knew that she wanted it.
I think she did. Yeah, I think she wanted it.
For sure.
I don't know. Good for her.
Who doesn't love Topher Grace? Okay, most people, I guess. Is that where we're going with this?
So, like, that doesn't do it for me.
That's okay.
Frank, though, could get it.
He's gotta fill out.
He's just gotta fill out. So then we cut to Raglan and Nola, and they are doing a therapy session. Raglan is role-playing as Candace, and he brings up, like, you hurt me, Mom. Like, I have these bruises, I have these bite marks on my back, you hurt me. And Nola is like, no, I would never. Mommies don't hurt their kids. But Raglan presses and asks some prodding questions, and Nola is like, okay, sometimes they do. Sometimes mommies hurt their kids. But then also, this woman is British. So she's saying mummies this whole time.
Is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then they're bad mummies. They're fucked up mummies. Which is what she says.
Okay.
And then Raglan like seamlessly switches to playing Juliana. So he was just playing
that's
Candace.
Where I thought was weird, because I was like, I can't tell which one is which now.
And so throughout the movie, every time he approaches Nola, she says, "Who is this? Who is this? Like, who are you playing today?" Yeah. So he seamlessly switches to playing Juliana, and he's encouraging her, "Show me your anger. Show it to me. And once again, go all the way through it to the end." So that's like a key part of his therapy, is forcing you to go all the way through what you're feeling. Yeah. And she's like,
she said, "You beat me, scratched me, threw me down the stairs."
Yeah.
And then you kind of get an idea of her and her mother's relationship, that it was real bad.
It was not great. Although I didn't entirely trust Nola's perspective on this.
I don't know.
I also don't know.
She's treating Candace very well.
But it's also easy to do that when you only have to be there for a weekend, you know?
That's true. That is very true. But it does seem like there might be a problem with the mother, because I don't want to be like, that's why the grandfather left, but I feel like that might be part of it.
I mean, something was going on in that house.
The only reason that I think it is true is by the way she reacted to her father, or whenever Dr. Raglan plays her
Raglan
father.
playing father.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But so we cut back to Juliana, and I'm just going to say her name different every time. I'm going to say Juliana. I'm going to say Juliana. I'm going to say Grandma. Like, I'm just going to bop around. But we're back with her, and she is showing pictures to Candace of Nola as a kid, specifically of Nola in the hospital as a kid. And she's telling Candace that Nola would just wake up some mornings and be covered in like weird bumps, and the doctors never could figure out what the cause was. And at this point in the movie, I was like, oh, this is like maybe Munchausen's by proxy.
I didn't think about that, but I think that's a good, yeah. Anytime you see a picture of a mother with their kid at a hospital, it usually ends up being that.
Oh, well, especially when the kid is claiming abuse, you know? So I was like, I don't know what's going on. But that's all wrong. But that's not what it is.
Well, and to your point from earlier where you were like, I don't know if that's true. I don't think she would feel comfortable taking her kid to the hospital all the time if she was covered in bruises.
Oh, yeah.
At first, I thought it was like her bringing up the bruises, and she was thinking the bruises were from her mother or something, or like the bumps were from her mother. I don't know. It was very weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But that scene showing these pictures, I definitely was like, this is related to the abuse somehow.
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand how.
Because it's not.
Yeah, correct. And then at that time, while they're talking about the picture, they start hearing something. And at first, I just thought it was like a cupboard or a laundry chute.
I don't know what it was because it looks like a laundry chute. What do you mean it's the milk? Milk fell out of a hole in the wall.
Well, before in older houses, and I don't know this for a fact, that's where the milkman would put his milk stuff. But it was milk in plastic jugs. So that's the part where I got confused. So it was like a weird refrigerator for milk and orange juice.
I don't know.
It was like a secondary wall refrigerator. You guys write in if you understand what secondary wall refrigerator is.
I don't know what it was. It fully looked like a cupboard, but then milk was falling out of it.
And then it gets crushed through, and you see a tiny little baby hand come through.
Uh-huh. But it's weird. It's a weird hand. It's already a weird hand.
It's a hand that's having a time. It looks like a hand that's been aged.
Yeah, so something is creepy crawling around the kitchen, and it's like knocking shit off counters. And Juliana goes to check on what is happening. And this is a scene where she grabs both of their drinks. She's like, "Let me go get a refill." Yeah. And Candace was drinking out of a glass, like a glass. That's a bold move for a 5-year-old.
Do they have plastic cups?
They had plastic milk jugs.
That's valid. That's a great point.
So I don't know. She did not childproof their house, or we wouldn't be in this situation. So she goes into the kitchen to investigate what the noise is.
They did a lot of product placement at this point, because there was definitely a Ritz product placement.
Oh.
There were a handful, and I was like, that sounds good.
And then
I watched it when I was very hungry.
And then there was what? Rolling pin product placement? Is that what the hand grabs? Hand grabs something menacingly. And I want to be clear. We are only
a meat tenderizer.
Oh, it was a meat tenderizer? Okay.
Yeah, it was a meat tenderizer.
So meat tenderizer product placement. We are only seeing the hand at this point. And Juliana goes to investigate, and she is like scanning the kitchen and then looks up above, I guess, the refrigerator or something. And something hisses and like jumps down on her and bludgeons her, and there's blood everywhere.
So I know you're saying bludgeons, but like it was very much. Have you guys ever been to, like the county fair and you get one of those inflatable?
Or are we whack-a-mole in it? It's just bopping her?
Yeah, it didn't look like it was like doing. It was very soft. I was like, there's no damage to be done here. Nope, it was not. It was not an inflatable. Maybe they should have used an inflatable because then you can hit harder. But like they were like,
yeah. There's only one death in this movie that looks good. Ticho.
Really?
Her death doesn't look good, but her bloody corpse looks convincing in a way that, like Juliana's ketchup on her face.
I agree with that, but I don't. I would say, I don't want to jump ahead, but.
Yeah,
we'll get to it when we get to it.
We'll get to it. So Candy comes in and finds her grandma like dead and bloody on the floor and does not react. This kid is weird. She's
cold.
Weird. So yeah, Candy turns around, sees the villain on the stairs, and the villain is like, we don't get a great look at it.
Yeah.
But it's little. It looks like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it leaves bloody handprints on the spindles of the stairs. And I was immediately like, Candy's going down for this murder.
Oh, yeah.
The cops are going to come in. They're going to be like, bloody kid handprints on the stairs.
Have they figured out fingerprints yet?
And also, this kid is weird. So, like, she did it. I don't know when we did fingerprints. We don't have DNA yet. DNA is like 90s, right? Like OJ.
Yeah, DNA happened real recently. Upsettingly recently.
Yeah. So I guess that's what happened. They just came in, and not to do a John Mulaney joke, but they saw these bloody handprints and they were like, yuck. like they didn't consider those at all.
So there's a part later in the film where they talk about how they weren't looking for anything small.
Yeah, but if you find small bloody handprints,
yeah, you would think you would look for something
so
small.
They must not have found those. So the police call Frank and they're like, bad news. Dead grandma. And he goes to the police station, and Candy is off with the psychologist, the police psychologist. And they tell him she was really hard to wake up when the police found her. Like, she was just asleep when they found dead grandma. Oh, so like a neighbor noticed that their, I don't know, milk delivery window was open and called the police. And so the police go over to investigate. Candy's asleep, and they describe her as too cool. And so that's why he called for the psychologist. And still, I was like, Candy's going down for this murder. But the psychologist comes in, and he's like, oh, Candy's just profoundly disturbed by what she saw at her grandma's house. Like, she for sure saw something and she doesn't remember, but you need to make her remember, because if she doesn't remember, she's going to break down and get an ulcer.
I don't know if she said she's going to get an ulcer, but she said she was going to have some kind of a breakdown, and she was like,
no, he says that I have seen ulcers in children like you would on a 35-year-old man, because they repress their memories.
Yeah. Ulcers. Bad
news. And this is where we mentioned that the grandma had a series of lovers. And I was like, hell yeah, grandma.
And then there was a wink.
Yeah, yep. Juliana. Juliana. Frank is, so the police are like, where's her husband in all this? Like, clearly thinking maybe he's a suspect. And he's like, no, they divorced 10 years ago. Can I take my kid home? So he goes to get Candy from like the break room with all the cops, and she was eating candy. She had chocolate all over her face.
Oh, all over her face. Yep.
Yeah. Pretty good. Yeah. So we're back with Nola and Raglan. And this is where, like you were referring to earlier, Raglan acts as her father. And he's saying things like, oh, but Frank's not bad. He's trying to protect Candy. He's just being a good father. He's trying to protect his own daughter, like I did you. And she's like, no, you didn't protect me. You should have.
Well, she starts with, I love you. I don't want you to be like, she definitely loves him. And she keeps saying, I love you. I don't want you to think I don't love you. I don't want you to think that this contradicts my love for you. But then she says, you shouldn't have looked away when she hit me. You shouldn't have.
You should have stopped her.
Yeah.
And she starts slapping him. He like turns his back on her, and she starts slapping him. And was a little bit like, so maybe you are turning it to your mother.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the other part of this is like, whenever he acts as the mother, he never sympathizes with her, and he never tries to. But as the father, he sympathizes with the father, and then he ends up trying to be like, I'm trying to protect you. He's trying to protect her like I was trying to protect you, and things like that. And I was like, you have chosen. And I feel like this is part of Cronenberg's writing, is because he was on the father's side this entire time, and he was dealing with that in his own life.
Whoa. No, I interpreted this entirely different from that.
Ooh, tell me everything.
I thought that Raglan was doing this specifically to antagonize Nola and to coax her into being like, I am mad at you. I didn't think that he was like, I, Raglan, am defending Frank. I think he was like, here's what I could say as Grandpa, as Barton, to elicit a response from Nola.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right on that.
I don't know enough about Cronenberg's body of work to speak to his treatment of women overall. The next morning, Grandpa comes to town. Candace's grandpa. His name is Barton. I'm fully going to call him Grandpa.
Also, a note that I had in this is that it talks about generational trauma and trying to break the cycle. It feels like Nola went to this institute or this Somfrey in order to break the cycle. So, like, I want to give her credit because she's trying. She's trying to get out of the cycle that she's concerned that she might fall into. And I don't think anybody should be faulted for trying. However, I mean, things are going to get really fucked. So, I mean, ignore everything I just said.
No, for sure. Try to break cycles. Yeah. Generational trauma is real. But, like, you just got to find somewhere reputable. I don't want to victim blame Nola here.
He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't right.
I'm saying, if your therapist is like, you can't talk to anybody until you're fixed, that's a problem. That's a cult. Get out.
Yeah.
I was going to say, follow your gut. Her gut has got some crazy stuff going on with it.
Yeah, don't follow that. Do not follow that. That is the last gut you ever want to follow.
Don't follow her gut. I don't know. Okay, we're going to get there. So then, Grandpa just arrived. Frank and Candy go to pick him up from the airport, and he seems like a nice man. He
does. Delightful.
He is like, it's such a shame that he's talking to Frank. He's like, it's such a shame that you and Nola are going through exactly what me and Juliana went through. Like, this is such a shame. It would be easy for him to take sides in this and just be like, well, I stand by Nola, and like, Frank's a bad guy. And I
think at the end of the day, he cares about Candace the most, just because he knows. Like, I mean,
yeah, but he doesn't seem like strained talking to Frank either. Like, I think that he genuinely likes and cares for Frank. So,
and he loves Nola. Like, he seems like someone who literally cares about everyone.
Yeah, he seems nice. And it is hard to reconcile the Grandpa and Juliana that we see in this movie with the, like, blatant abusers that Nola describes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because Nola is untrustworthy or if because abusers are very good at hiding. We don't need to get into this. We won't on this one. If you guys want us to, let us know. Yeah, but if we join our Patreon, we'll do a real bummer of an episode.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys like the sad ones, we can crank them out like crazy.
Oh boy, we are sad.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So Grandpa's in town.
But Frank goes to what looks like an assisted living home.
That's what I put, assisted living, but it could be a rehab. I'm
like
not
a halfway
really
house
sure.
of some sort. And he goes to see this guy who is a character. So he is wearing like a full-on bath towel as an ascot under his
like sweatsuit. He's wearing like a sweatsuit.
Tracksuit.
That's it.
It's more fashionable than sweatsuit.
It's very, it's like velour. It's not, is it velour? It's probably not, but I feel like if it wasn't, it should be.
And he's like, he's fun. He's high energy. When Frank goes in, he is rolling around on the floor, like literally rolling around on the floor. And when he finally gets up, he's all sweaty and he's like, sorry, that was my second heart. And he goes on about how like the lymphatic system is a system where like stuff in your body needs to be like pumped around and moved, but we don't have a heart for it. So he was like rolling around on the floor to manually move his lymph around. And we discover that he is also working with a lawyer on a case against Raglan, and Frank's lawyer put him in touch with this guy. And I don't know how to describe what happens here. He is going on about how his interaction with Raglan is physiological, and Frank is like, oh, well, my wife is involved with him, but it's just psychological. And the guy is like, no, if she's involved with Raglan, it'll be physiological soon enough. And he like pulls down his towel in like, this is a jump scare. This was a jump scare in the movie. He pulls down the towel to show Frank what's going on under there. And it is
terrifying.
It's very upsetting.
Yeah, it's like a tumor.
But it's like...
And by like a tumor, it is a tumor.
It is literally a tumor. He has lymphosarcoma, and he says that he developed that through his therapy with Raglan. He says that Raglan encouraged my body to revolt against me. And
I'm glad that you quoted that, because I also quoted that, because I was like, that's a good line.
His plan... Sorry, we have to describe this. So it's not just like... It's not like a lump. Like when I hear
got like
tumor,
texture.
It's got texture. It's like a bunch of...
It's got little lumps.
Stalactites.
Yeah.
And
it's like... If you like pushed Play-Doh through something with a lot of... Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and it has like a lot of creases.
It's
like a baseball size, but it's
got like ball sack texture.
See, I feel like you were going to say that.
I have been trying not to say it, but I had to say it.
It's there, and it's a thing.
It's there.
And that's how we feel about balls, I guess.
Yeah. Agree. Like, they're there. I don't know. This was very upsetting and very Cronenbergian.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, I feel like...
To make you feel something uncomfortable. And I feel like that happened... It doesn't happen as often as I would have expected, but it does happen.
I was going to say, I feel like Cronenberg was exhibiting great restraint in this movie.
He could have done more. He could have done a lot more.
Way more.
Especially with the subject matter. Like, a type of psychology that causes you to have, like, physical attributes. Ooh.
Yeah, so this guy with the neck, his plan is to take Raglan to court, even though he knows he can't win. He's like, I just want revenge. I just want to make a bad reputation. He says that in a year, nobody's going to remember whether or not he won, but everybody will remember that psychoplasmics gives you cancer.
So he doesn't think he's going to win the case, but it's enough for the bad publicity to be like, no one will go there anymore.
Yep. And while that is happening, the grandpa goes to talk to Raglan.
He takes a swig in the car.
Yeah, he busts out his flask. And
I asked, what are the laws at this time for drinking and driving?
I don't know. But this scene is funny. I mean, it isn't funny. I shouldn't laugh.
I was like, he big mad was my next comment.
He is big mad. He is like waiting outside of Soma Free to talk to Raglan because the person at the front desk won't let him in. And Raglan eventually comes out and he's like, I haven't told Nola that her mom is dead. And Grandpa is like, what the fuck? Like, that's her mom. You have to tell her. And Raglan once again is like, no, she's going through a critical phase in her therapy and I can't tell her, it'll fuck up her progress. And the grandpa is like, I can't bury her mom without her, so you have until tomorrow afternoon to let her know, and I am coming back for her. And the grandpa gets in his car and storms out, and Raglan's assistant asks, shall I have him stopped? Which was very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I, at this point, thought that this guy's name is Chris. The assistant's name is Chris. And I was like, is he controlling the bad guy? He's not. Shall I have him stopped? I was reading into that. But Raglan just says, no, don't bother. He's drunk. What? He's driving away. Yes, have him stopped. What do you mean, don't bother? He's drunk. Yeah, I don't know. That was funny.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. So, Frank has just talked to the lymphosarcoma guy, and he goes to pick up Candy at school, and he's clearly running late again. And it's just the teacher and Candy playing outside, and Candy like invites the teacher over for dinner.
Yeah,
and
was
Frank
she trying
is
to
like,
parent trap that?
I think she might have been, because later the teacher says that Candy had them playing mother and daughter.
Yeah.
So I think she might have been trying to parent trap it. But Frank is like, ooh, I love a baby mullet. Yeah, come over.
But even before that, this is the first time that we see Candace be normal. She like giggles. And I was like,
that's a great point. She's just being a normal kid here.
She laughs and I'm like, whoa.
And she like hugs her dad when he says the teacher can come over. She's very excited. Yeah, this is like, you're right. That's a great point. Yeah, so teacher comes over for dinner and it's weird. This is a weird conversation. Yeah. Like, this is a weird conversation for you to have with your 5-year-old's teacher. And this is a weird conversation. Like, it's established that maybe they were trying to do a date. Like, maybe this was half date. This is a weird conversation to have on a first date. Like, he is going off about Nora and he's talking about how their marriage is failing.
Nola.
And you're right. Yes, Nola. And he says, Nola is crazy and she tried to marry me hoping that my sanity would rub off on her, but it's just gone the other way. Like, do not have this as a first date conversation and definitely
that's red flags.
Do not talk to your kindergartner's teacher about this. Like, none of this is appropriate.
Either of the personas that you were expecting to get from this, they don't need to know either of those.
No, I'm not saying bottle it up because the body will keep the score and you will get cancer. but find a different outlet. Like, I don't know, take your bros down to BB Dubs and have a cold one.
Or go to therapy. Just don't go to Dr. Raglan.
No, definitely not him. And so while they're having this weird conversation, Grandpa calls and he is drunk and sad over at Juliana's. I know, it's very sad. It
is. He's like, I went back to the house and I
know he shouldn't have. And they had talked earlier about how, like, even after all these years, she hadn't changed the locks and he still had the key. Like, he shouldn't have gone back there. And he is sort of riling himself up. He's like, I'm going back to Soma Free just as soon as you get here, Frank. And Frank is like, okay, I can be there in 15 minutes. Frank!
You got a lady there. You got a child.
A pretty lady and a child here.
And he told him to get a cab. Just say, get a cab, come over here, we'll figure it out.
He should have stuck to his guns.
Just say, come this way. That house is making you sad as shit.
Get out of that house.
If that house is making you sad, go for a walk.
Leave the house. And instead, he talks to the teacher and she's very astute. She's like, I feel like I'm going to have to babysit now. And he's like, would you? Here's a book you can read while I'm gone. You'll find it very interesting. And it's a Raglan book about psychoplasmics. Sorry, plasmics? Plastics. Psychoplastics.
I have plasmics.
Is it plasmics?
This is a weird time to find this out.
We're like pretty far into the recording.
Psychoplasmics.
Yeah.
I have plasmics.
I do too.
Plasmics. You were correct. Woo! Correct the first time.
Woo!
He goes to the taped body outline and then he like goes and he's like, no.
I know. He's like, he's so sad. This was shouldn't be funny, but like, why did okay, so they did a taped body outline.
Whenever they were taping, I was like, why is this? I wish they had done, well, when I saw it as tape, I was like, oh, is this supposed to be a chalk outline? But it's with tape, so it looks like a pop art thing. And I thought it looked like a pop art piece. And I was like, oh, this looks like a couple installations I've been to recently.
I was also like, who cleaned up the blood? Because the police don't do that.
Also, what was that rope? The rope that was tied to that to be like, don't go in?
I don't
was
know
that caution tape prior to caution tape?
Yeah, it was.
You guys, anybody who was around in the 1970s, let us know.
Yeah, this is ungoogleable.
Do people use? Most things are. So then Barton real sad, Barton drunk in bedroom is what I've got for my next note.
Yeah, he like heads up the stairs and even still, I was like, is he going to see the little bloody handprints on the spindles? No, he just goes upstairs and he's being sad in Juliana's bed. And the little murderer, little murderer crawls out from under the bed and it's hissing. And here's where we get like a glimpse of him. He is clearly deformed. They don't have genitals. So
Correct.
I don't know how he identifies. I don't know how they identify.
I don't know how he identifies.
I'm sorry.
Grandpa does say, "Oh, no, Nola." So he immediately thinks they are a lady.
Grandpa says that before he turns all the way around. He's just a drunk old man.
Sweet drunk old man.
I didn't say evil old man. What I said doesn't preclude sweet.
But then he's like, she decides to have a collection of paperweights. And by she, I mean Juliana.
Yeah, she's just
has a collection of paperweights.
That's what
she's
I like to
here
keep
are
on
my paperweights.
My vanity is riddled with paperweights. And deformed non-binary entity grabs the paperweights and bludgeons Grandpa. And again, this looks pretty bad.
I thought this one looked better than the last
definitely
one.
Looks better because in the kitchen... But
it still is very much like, I don't know, here, my microphone's made for ASMR. Do you guys feel like you're being bludgeoned? Because that's what it felt like.
I recommend when you watch this movie, look down at your phone and take notes while the bludgeonings are happening.
Oh, okay. So then you just see the afterwards?
You just get glimpses, and it's very effective.
Okay, I was going to say, because if you watch it, you're like, oh, okay. It's the same as like just blowing on someone. You just blow on them until they die.
He's a weak old man, and his liver is failing. So...
So it doesn't take much. It just takes a couple soft pats, and then you're down. You're down for the count.
That's it. So Frank is on his way over, and he is driving so recklessly. Like, he is whipping through the streets. I was like, Frank, you are going to get yourself killed before you even find your dead ex-grandpa. So he gets there, and he does discover the grandpa, and then he sees the weird kid. And this is the non-binary one, not Candace, who is also weird, but in a different way. So he chases after the kid and follows him into the bathroom where he can't find him straight away. And once again, he's up high. The kid has great predator
checks
instincts.
A linen closet.
I know, yeah,
with a bunch of shelves. And I was like, did you know what that was? Because of course it's not in there.
He checks the linen closet before he moves the shower curtain.
Yeah, shower curtain should have been first.
Shower curtain number one
did not check out.
Yeah, I was like, hun, you are not you're lucky this kid is about to die on its own because you would not have survived, which is what happens.
No.
Kid,
whenever the kid threw, okay, did we talk about the kid throwing the paperweight at his head? That was the only time that I felt like there was any force, and I was like,
because it doesn't hit his head, it goes straight through the wall, which is clearly cardboard.
Yeah, they did that a lot. It's so good.
It goes straight through the wall and leaves a perfectly, it's like the Kool-Aid Man. It leaves a perfectly paperweight-sized hole in the wall, which is not how walls work. So, I don't know. That was funny. So yeah, the weird kid jumps on him, but then immediately falls over, and it's gagging and wheezing and dies. And the police are going to be here in a second, but before that, I want to talk about the weird wallpaper in this woman's house. So her bedroom was wallpapered, mm-hmm. and she had a wooden door mm-hmm. into the bedroom, and there were panels on the door, and the panels were wallpapered to match the walls. Just the panels. Mm-hmm. I haven't ever seen that before.
I haven't seen that either, but I don't hate it.
I thought about doing it here.
Oh, nice.
I was like, that's a great idea. And we love it.
It was aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. I interior design in this movie, A+. You guys know you signed up for an interior design horror movies podcast. And we give this one an A+.
We love it. The 70s aesthetic is very big right now. So the police show up, and at this point, I don't know. I just feel like the police should be like, well, Frank did it. He's associated with all these murders. I don't know. They don't say that. They are speculating.
There's a weird baby thing. I don't know. I don't know why they're so chill about everything that's happening.
If Frank, who has been at 2 murders, comes to you and says, yeah, a weird baby did it, you're going to be like, okay, Frank. Sure. Tell me about the weird
They're like,
baby.
We see the size of this baby. There is no way it has the strength to do Literally anything.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they have a body. I forgot.
Yeah,
that
they have a body. No,
you're
it was.
You're right.
Yeah, if they didn't, because okay, are you with me? Did you also assume that the body would immediately disappear, like every other movie and/or TV show we've seen, where it's like, oh, this thing killed something, body dies, then it becomes translucent and disappears.
Oh, damn. I didn't.
I 100% thought that was going to happen. And then whenever they went to the coroner, I was like, oh, what? They have a body?
They have a body.
In what world?
Yeah. So the police are thinking, like, some woman had a deformed kid that she has kept locked up this whole time because she didn't want to be embarrassed.
And he also said, you'd be surprised at how often that happens.
No, I was like, how often does that happen? What's going on in Canada?
What?
So, yeah, Frank is driving home and he's like having these weird, like, purple flashbacks to the autopsy of the child, which, number one, why was Frank at the autopsy?
Makes no sense.
Makes
no sense. Especially
sense.
he should be a suspect.
Exactly.
Why would you bring a suspect into the autopsy?
The cop is just like, come on in, let's look at the weird kid. And the kid was weird. So the coroner says he has a cleft lip and he described his eyes. And he said, like, he has irises, but not something. I didn't catch it, but he likely sees in black and white. He has no teeth, but he has beak-like gums that would probably hurt if it bit you. And he has essentially a camel's hump on his back. I'm sorry, I'm gendering it again. I'm so sorry. They have like a camel hump on their back. And the doctor says that the camel hump is like it's born with it. And when it runs out of whatever is in the camel's hump, then the kid...
Born this way. Compared it to a camel and something else.
I only wrote down camel.
I don't remember. No belly button.
No belly button and no sexual organs.
I mean, I get that they needed to point that out, but did they need to point that out? Did they need to point that out? Was that part of it? Why did they need to point that out?
I would rather them not have sexual organs than them be like, look at this weird wiener. You know? Like, what if they had been like... But if it's a
child wiener, don't they look normal?
But what if they had been like, examine these labias?
Oh, no.
You know? Like, better just to say they're not there. Let's focus on the belly button. So. Let's focus on that belly button.
No belly button.
Which means it wasn't born like a human. Dun, dun, dun. So while Frank is at the autopsy, for whatever reason, the teacher is at home and Candy's asleep. Like, I don't know. We could have left her alone. She'd have been fine.
She sleeps all the time. It's fine. She's done.
Yeah. Nola calls the house and the teacher answers. And Nola freaks out. She's like, oh, are you having a little parent-teacher conference with my husband? You bitch. And the teacher hangs up.
Bitch a lot.
She says bitch a lot. And like in the bad way, like we say it the fun way. The reclaiming way. And she's saying it the mean way.
Not like you go, bitch.
Bitch.
Bitch, you got this.
Yeah, my bitch. No, she says it mean. And the teacher hangs up and like covers the phone with pillows, which I thought was a funny text.
I did.
I unplug it. And we cut to Nola just off the phone with the teacher talking to Raglan. And Raglan is now acting as the teacher.
Before we go to that, isn't the assistant, Chris, isn't he next to her and he's like, you can't do outbound calls? I want to talk about it because of the fact that he was just staring at her making an outbound call. Like, he didn't just enter the room and he was like, oh, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, it's like he brought the phone to her.
And she was like, well, I did it. And Chris didn't go like, who'd you call, bitch?
You're right. He is pretty calm.
He's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll just take this. I'll see you later. Peace. Love you, Nola. BRB bestie.
Yeah. Raglan comes in and he is now acting as the teacher. And Nola is saying, you have poisoned him against me and you are taking advantage of his loneliness while I am trying to get better. And if it weren't for you, he would wait for me and he would help me to get better, which is that's not fair. That isn't fair thinking. Like, set aside all the murders. If we're just talking therapy, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So Nola just reacted to the teacher, and Frank gets home, and the teacher leaves in a hurry. She's like, your wife called, and your life is a bit too complicated for me right now. Fair. That's fair. That's a lot.
She's logical. She's like, no, you're
That's a
not.
lot.
You and your wife are not done. Things are weird. I'm gone.
I can't be answering phone calls like that. So he goes upstairs to check on Candy, and she's crying on the floor.
Yeah.
She says that she had a bad dream, and the dream doesn't want her to tell you about it. And he comforts her. He says, I know what you saw at Grandma's house, and that weird thing is dead. It's dead. It can't hurt you anymore.
And then she hugs him. But it seems like a real hug. There are so many times whenever Candace seems like she's out of it, but this seems like a moment that she was in it. And I think that that's kind of an important part, just because she was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But we're not correct.
We're not correct. So the next morning, Raglan sees the newspaper, and the front page of it is like, another person dead by weird deformed kid. And
they had a picture of the autopsy.
Picture of the autopsy. It was giving big Area
is this like
51
Daily Mail?
vibes.
What is this? Yeah,
no,
it wasn't.
It's not Daily Mail. It's
Was it the New York Times?
What is it? Six Sad World? That's not it. That's the Daria one. It's the Weekly World News. Is that what it is?
Something. Yeah.
The one that's always talking about Wolfman or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like the conspiracy theorist newspaper. Like, why would you put this on the front page? And we learn that there are 27 people here at Soma Free, and Raglan commands Chris to get them out. And he opens his desk drawer, and there's just a gun just loose in the drawer.
And the assistant Chris also says, Mike's not going to take this very well. No, you guys remember Mike? Michelle. From the beginning.
He doesn't. We then see Chris trying to get these 27 folk on a bus, and Mike is like freaking out. He really does not want to leave. Then Frank goes to see the lymph fanatic again, and Mike is there too.
I have, for my notes in this, Mike is joining their ragtag team of misfits going against the doctor, which I don't know. I think there could have been a turn at this point, and it could have been a buddy film, which I would have been cool with, honestly.
Okay, so this lymphoma guy is like comedic relief, right?
Yeah.
Like
for sure. I wanted him to be in it more. I was like, if you could just bring him everywhere, I would appreciate that.
He's like super neurotic and very high strung. And I was like, I can't tell if this is supposed to be funny or if I'm being mean. I think it's supposed to be funny. And I'm saying that as somebody very neurotic and high strung. So, for example,
because we related to him, we exactly. Thought it was funny.
So, the first time I had sex, the next morning, I was very awkward about leaving the guy's house. And he said to me, "You are very neurotic. I feel like I just slept with Woody Allen."
Ouch. Jesus.
So, like, I am saying this as a weirdo, high-strung neurotic.
As Woody Allen?
No, because this was a grown man. I mean, he was age appropriate.
Yeah, I just don't like the comparison to Woody Allen. I feel like you might be neurotic, but you're better than Woody Allen for sure.
Thank you. I also think that.
I think Woody Allen is kind of like neurotic, but also kind of misogynistic.
I hope that I'm not. I try not to be that.
You're not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I can't rest on my laurels. I can't be like, well, I'm not misogynistic and then like live my life. I need to be hypervigilant.
Continue to be neurotic. I mean, you don't have to be.
No. I'm not. I'm gonna continue being neurotic. Like all I'm saying is that I don't condone Woody Allen, and I don't think I'm being mean to think this guy is funny because I relate to him.
Same. Immediately when I met him, I was like, oh, I like this guy. I get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's funny, because we're like, we get where he's coming from.
I get it. I see it. Yeah. So Mike is here too, and he seems to be here out of vengeance.
Spite? Yeah.
Spite. He's mad. He doesn't want to have been kicked out of Soma Free.
He says that Nola's the queen bee, and she's the one to prove that psychoplasmics works. And then he keeps saying, just be my daddy. Please be my daddy. I'll tell you whatever you want.
I'll
Please
bleed
be my
for
daddy.
you. I'll bleed for you. And then he
so
says,
bad.
he says, nobody could do it like Dr. Raglan, not even real daddy. Mike, Mike, we got to get you a regular therapist. But the thing that I really wanted to call out was that Mike says Nola was born to prove psychoplasmics works. That's going to be critical.
Big thing.
So, I don't know. I guess Frank just leaves because then he's dropping Candy off at school. And there are some suspicious kids in snowsuits hanging around outside the school. And then they come into Candy's classroom and send her out of the room.
That was nice of them, though.
Sorry, it's nice because they go on to brutally murder the teacher.
Yeah.
So they were sparing
in front
Candy.
Of all the other children.
And they just watch. They just watch. There's
except
one
for one
kid.
dude.
There's one normal kid.
Little dude.
Runs out of the room screaming for help. And I do have one note is that he runs outside instead of to like the next classroom over, but he finds Frank outside because he just dropped off Candace, and Frank goes in, sees that the teacher is dead, and this is the most brutal, this is the most realistic crime scene.
I was gonna say, I also want to say I liked what the kid said whenever he came out to tell Frank. He said they made her fall down.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that is rough for a child to do. What child could make someone fall down?
Children have made me fall down.
That small?
I don't have a great center of gravity.
Okay, I like how I'm looking down as to like if there are children around me. Would I fall?
Well, you're child-sized.
So you're saying I could shove you down?
Yeah, you absolutely could. Yes. So Frank just sort of goes outside searching for Candy impotently. Like he's
after finding the dead body.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted your dead body finding. Most realistic dead body we see.
Yeah, most realistic. He finds her. He then goes outside searching for Candy.
But they also murdered her with those light ass blocks that you get in kindergarten.
Okay.
They're so light. You can't, once again, guys.
We don't know what their strength is like. The coroner did not mention that.
They don't have enough muscle mass.
How do you know? Maybe
I don't know. I mean, I know that they're deformed. They're in poofy suits. Maybe
they're in poofy
I don't
suits.
know.
Maybe they're like little Arnold Schwarzeneggers under there. I don't know.
I still have negative. I don't know how I feel. I just feel like those blocks, even when it's hit really hard, like those building blocks that you have as a child. I don't know. What is that? Birch? Is birch really light? What the hell is light wood? It's whatever that
pine.
light wood is. Pine. Whatever it is super light.
Yeah, but they got a lot of rage.
They pick up their only rage.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see how they could hit her hard enough with a mallet that light to kill her in mere seconds.
People were just really weak in 79.
Must have been the smoking. Let's keep going.
Everybody was on the verge of death. Yeah, so while this is happening, Raglan goes out to like a house in the woods, and he enters it, but
it's a barn.
Out there, I guess it's a barn. They call it a shed later. But it's like big.
Not to brag, but I upgraded my barn in Stardew Valley. That's for sure a barn.
Okay, got it. So he's like out there with his gun, looking around the woods, and then he goes in and wakes up Nola, and she's in a great mood. She seems so
content
and happy, and she says that she no longer feels threatened by the teacher, and that she was dreaming of Candy coming back to her.
And Frank as well. And then he was like, have you dreamed of the teacher? And then she was like, nope. Don't need to.
Don't feel threatened by her anymore. And so Frank and the cops are off looking for Candy, and they go to some house where I guess Nola and Candy were staying for 9 months before she went to Soma Free. They've been separated for a while, but when they get there and Candy's not there, Frank is like, no, of course not. Those weird kids have her. And then we get a glimpse of Candy walking down a highway with the two weird kids, and they're all in their little snowsuits. and a car goes by. And I was like, if I see 3 5-year-olds
Children. Yeah.
walking down the street, like I am
I'd
stopping.
be like, are you okay?
I don't even like kids.
Well,
And I'm gonna stop.
So I had not the same reaction. I said the color palette is amazing. If I were making a tulpa, can I tulpa clothes into the world?
Oh, that would be dope.
Because I was like, oh man, if I could just tulpa clothes and not people.
Because she's still in her red. Are they in blue?
Yeah. One was in blue and one was like in yellow.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is pretty. I want every one of these. Thank you.
So Frank is at home and he's like agitated. It's clear that he's like waiting for something to happen, and something happens. Mike shows up and he is frantic and paranoid. And Frank is again asking, like, why did Soma Free close? You didn't answer me earlier. And Mike says, Raglan is onto something very big. He got bored with the rest of us. Something big with the disturbed kids in the shed. Nola is taking care of them. Aha! Aha!
Ha!
So Frank runs off to Soma Free and he finds the shed as Raglan is coming out from this latest conversation with Nola. And Frank is like, where's Candace? And Frank tells him those weird kids killed Candace's teacher and they took her. So where is she? And this is where Raglan is like, he seemed very surprised to be hearing of the teacher's death and genuinely worried.
Yeah. He knew about the mother and the father.
I guess he did, but I think that
because he at least knew from the news article.
Yeah, I mean, that's like why he was closing Soma Free.
Good point. I think this is a good point because he didn't know the window, because you see that the window's broken. The children had gotten out. I think he assumed that everything was fine. He says there are 2 people dead. But why didn't he question it at the mother's death? Maybe he thought of this as a form of therapy, that you go ahead and murder the people that upset you?
I think that it's simpler and more selfish than that. I think that he straight up was like, I don't want to believe that
this has anything to do with
the therapy that I am doing has led to people dying.
I think that's valid.
And the reason I say that is because
who he is in the end.
Yes, he like when he learns of the teacher, he's like, no, fuck, I can't like pretend that this isn't happening anymore. Yeah. And he immediately switches to helping Frank.
He does.
So Raglan is like, the weird kids live in the attic, and if they have candy, that's where she's gonna be.
He also has a part in this where he says, I have a gun. And then he points it at him, but he's not threatening him. He's just telling him he has a gun to use in this situation.
Yeah.
But they're on the same page, and they're having like a normal discussion. Like, he's not threatening him.
No.
But he's pointing the gun at him like he's like, listen to me. And then I'm like, but you're not. He's agreeing with you. You guys are on the same page. It's pretty chill. Don't point a gun at him. Or you're just trying to tell him, I have a gun so I can go up in the attic. It's cool.
Yeah, I don't really know.
It was a weird moment. He was like, I have a gun. And I was like, this is not the tone I would expect from 2 people talking and one pointing a gun at the other.
It was definitely weird. But while they're having this conversation, before the gun is pulled, Raglan tells Frank, like, they will kill you if you try to go up there and get Candace. And he goes further to say that in a sense, she is one of them. And Frank calls Nola their surrogate mother. And Raglan is like, no, she is their mother. They are creatures of her rage. When Nola got annoyed with Candy, the brood beat her. And then when Nola was going through therapy with me about her mother and father, with pure rage, the brood killed them. Same with the teacher. And Raglan is like, okay, you got to go in there and talk to Nola, and you have to play the role of the apologetic husband and lover. You have to keep Nola calm so that the brood is calm, so that I can go in and get Candy.
Yep.
And Frank tries to follow these instructions. He goes in to talk to Nola, and
honestly, he does his best. I am shocked at how well he does.
He comes around, but his like opening line was like, "This is all a misunderstanding," and I was like, "Frank, you're off to a bad start."
And she's already suspicious. She's already like, no.
She's suspicious through this whole conversation.
Mm-mm.
He's saying things like, "You're the only woman in the world for me," and Nola is like, "Things have been so strange lately in therapy. I can't share it with anybody from my old life." And Frank is like, "Well, let me be from your new life. Take me with you."
At the same time, Dr. Ragland has Candace in his arms. And then we see the brood, which is a ton of children.
So many more kids than I thought.
10, 11?
So many more kids.
It is in the double digits for sure.
And they have bunk beds. Like who made those bunk beds?
It's like camp.
Do you think Raglan made those? Do you think Chris made those?
Chris made them. 100% it was Chris. Do you think Raglan made anything? No, it was Chris.
No, it was Chris.
He was like, "Chris, go make some bunk beds." And he was like,
"Yes, sir." Yeah, Frank is like, "Just let me be a part of your new life." And Nola is super skeptical.
I was also like not upset with her for that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, a healthy dose of skepticism isn't wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely be skeptical here.
But you were like, please don't be skeptical. Please, for the sake of the child, believe everything he's saying to you.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger problem is the like psychoplasmic part of this.
Yeah, are you sure?
No, I guess not. To each their own. She is like daring Frank to be a part of her life post therapy, and she opens her garment like bat-like, like vampire-like. She opens it like full arms.
But you don't get like an eye full of what's happening yet. You just like see that she's opened it, and I was like, oh god, I don't know what we're gonna see, but I don't want to see it.
I wrote down, "What's going on under there?"
I was like, no. And I felt like my reaction was appropriate to what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Because what was going on under there is an external womb, like sitting in her lap.
And it was just pumping out babies. It was more than one baby. There were multiple babies.
No, in this scene, there's only one baby.
No, there's a little one and there's a normal size one. So there's a little one closer to her tummy. So she pulls out a baby. She bites the baby out of the sack.
Yeah, but she bites.
Earlier in the sack, there's another baby.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I remember there being multiple babies in the sack. Like, it was just like one after the other. Like, she just keeps cranking out. Now I'm trying to look up Google image searches.
Yeah, I like Google imaged it because I wanted to put it on Twitter.
Is that legal? Can you do that? Will people get upset?
Arrest me. Did you see her ribs? Her boobs are super prominent.
It wasn't her boobs. I wasn't staring at her boobs.
I think that I see what you're seeing. I don't think it's a second baby. I think it's the pipe to the baby. What do they call that? Umbilical cord.
But I do think that there's a second baby.
These images are so tiny.
There was like a second baby because I was like, oh, that's a full-on fetus. And another fetus? Is it just like a pipe of babies?
Maybe it is a pipe of babies.
I actually read that she just had a bunch of condoms attached to her.
Yuck.
So the pipe is condoms and the babies are dolls, I would assume.
I can't like zoom in on this. Oh, but she also has like Mike style wounds on her.
Yeah, are all those babies?
No, I think that those are the boils that she suffered from as a kid.
Because I thought like that baby was done and the other baby was processing. Processing. The other one was cued. It's fine.
Okay, maybe. Yeah,
I thought like the baby was made and then the next baby was ready to go.
Next baby is ready to go. Yeah, maybe.
But is every little boil gonna be a baby?
No, I think that this is combo. Like she's got a boil on her hip.
Yeah, what if that's a baby?
I don't think it's a baby. I think that this is combo weird boils that sent her to the hospital as a kid.
Anyway, guys, this is what makes it a Cronenberg.
Yeah, this is very Cronenberg.
You're like, oh, dear God, no.
It's
no.
It's like it's upsetting to see the external womb and then Nora leans down.
It gets worse.
Sorry, Nola leans down and bites the womb open and rips it open like a Christmas present. And there's one of these brood babies in there. And she holds it up and starts licking the blood off of it.
Yeah.
She starts licking the blood off of it.
That was actually the actress's idea.
I saw that.
Good on her. You own it. You own that motherhood instinct.
She also described this role as almost Shakespearean. She was like, how could I deny this role?
Love her.
Hell yeah.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah. The censors also mandated that the scene be cut. Her licking the baby was cut from the movie, and it was only available on DVD in the UK like 10 years ago or something. Like it only recently became available.
I don't like that at all.
I don't like that at all. Especially because Cronenberg said that when they cut it in subsequent screeners, the audience thought that she was eating the baby, not just cleaning it off. And he was like, that's way worse than what we were doing.
Yeah.
That's way worse. Yeah. So, she takes this baby out, and I feel like Raglan really should have told Frank about this whole external womb thing.
Yeah, at least so he wouldn't freak out a little bit.
Because Frank
just
freaks out.
Warning. She's got a womb on the outside of her body. It's gonna look fucking weird, but
it's weird.
Just focus and just be like, I love it. I love it. Looks great.
I love this.
Looks so good.
Let's be parents to that external baby.
Yeah.
And instead, Frank is like, oh, yeah.
He hesitates. He comes around. He hesitates.
He tries to.
My shock was, sorry, it doesn't have to do with the baby.
But she's fully like, you're disgusted. You hate me.
Yeah. No, I'm not. This is fine.
This is great. I love it. I love it.
Lick the baby. It looks good on you.
Can I lick the baby? And while this is happening, while Nola is freaking out, the brood is like activating, and Raglan tries to send Candy out of the room, and she's a weirdo, so she's just sort of watching while Raglan is shooting at the brood. And Nola starts freaking out at Frank, saying that she would rather kill Candace than let Frank take her. And that's bad news for Candace, who is surrounded by the brood. And so they turn on her. Yeah. And like Frank and Nola can hear her screaming upstairs. And Frank is trying to tell Nola to stop. And Candace is trying to hide in a closet. And Frank is telling Nola, like, I'm going to kill you. I will kill you if you are going to threaten our daughter this way. And Nola weirdly seems excited by this. She's like, do it. Kill me, kill me, kill me. And he strangles her. He strangles her to death.
And at this time, Candace in another room, and the brood are coming for her. They're punching through a door.
Exactly.
And they're grabbing her shirt, and she's
very
about to be done for.
Yeah. And as Nola dies, as she is strangled, she is still clutching this new baby from her external womb. Yeah. So Nola's dead, and Frank is like stunned. He's sort of walking out of the barn in a daze, and then remembers that he has to find his kid. So he runs upstairs and finds the brood dead. They all died with Nola, and Raglan, of course, is dead. And he finds Candace alive in a closet, and he has to force her head up and like her hands away from her face. Dog, you gotta say something to her. Like, she thinks you're one of them. Don't go grabbing her hands and face like this. Like, say, hey, it's me, your dad. I don't know. That was upsetting. And she has got like 1,000-yard stare, and they leave. They leave Soma free. She doesn't have a car seat. She probably should. She still seems small. He puts her in the front seat. I don't know.
For sure.
Troublesome.
There's a giant jacket around her, and maybe they thought
and
that
it's got
was
blood
enough.
on it. It's got blood on it. So they drive away, and this is the end of the movie. He's like, we're going home. It's all over. And then we zoom in on Candy's arm, and she's got little blisters on it, just like baby Nola did. She has got psychoplasmics in her blood. She's just like her mom. She's just like her mom. So this is just what Juliana was saying. She is probably already rewriting her history, or not necessarily rewriting, but like editorializing her history.
Yeah.
And she clearly is going to have the same, I don't want to say ability. Ability seems generous.
If she had the same type of rage, or if she didn't have the same type of rage, do you think she would create Tulpas, or do you think that she would continue to just be just with a couple blisters?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe just blisters. Like maybe when she gets frustrated or sad or angry, she like breaks out. I
break out when I'm frustrated and sad and angry.
I don't break out. I do throw up. It's just the same thing. That's like breaking out in a different way.
Yeah.
My biggest question about this movie, though, is are these Tulpas or are they Dancer?
Definitely Dancer. Oh, fun fact. The entire group of Brood, the Brood is a gymnastics class. It's a class of children that were in gymnastics together.
Okay.
They brought them in to act as the Brood, so they may be Dancer.
I put that in as a joke. I didn't know that at all.
So they are both Tulpa and Dancer, is what we've learned.
And Dancer.
Yeah.
Can a Tulpa be born?
See, that was the thing. If you create it from how you feel, your egg doesn't have a sperm. Like, it's created from your emotion.
Excuse me.
A sperm. Sorry, it's a sperm. Just the egg and the sperm.
That's true. No
sperm. It's a different way, because we talk about how poltergeists are created from emotions.
Yeah.
It is, I feel like it's the same thing. It's creating an external. No, I don't want to say an external object, because a person isn't an object, but the tulpa becomes a person. And
do they become a person? What is a person?
But they also transmit, like they also receive the feelings of the mother. So they react based on the feelings of the mother, no matter how far away they are.
Which is,
so if they moved states away, they would only be able to react based on the mother's feeling.
Yeah, that's why I am hesitant to call them people.
Oh, surrogates?
Surrogates, sure.
Tulpas? Antennas?
I guess tulpas. Yeah, I guess tulpas is the best word.
Yeah.
I guess brood is the best word.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting chapter in the tulpa categorization.
I feel like it's more tulpa than slapface was. But I guess my definition of tulpa comes mostly from Empty Man. And that was my first introduction to tulpa for the most part. So I'm going based off of Empty Man and not so much the brood.
Okay, then I want to hear why you think that this is closer to Empty Man than Slapface, because I would pair it the other way.
Oh. Well, it was a physical manifestation that continued to exist. When the witch died, it did disintegrate how I assumed would happen.
Uh-huh.
But the tulpa, I would expect an Empty Man also exist. I think the body of the number 13 continued to exist. I didn't think it disappeared because I thought it was a body.
I mean, I agree that it was a body. Okay.
That's where I went with it, is in Slapface, the body disintegrated. Do I think it's not a tulpa? No, I definitely think it's a tulpa. I definitely think it was created from the child's mind.
Yeah, and that's where I am. I'm like, yes, the brood was definitely created from Nola's mind.
Yeah, her rage.
So the reason I was sort of separating this is because it's not like Nola sat down one day and was like, I'm going to create a
baby.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, it's literally born out of her. And I mean that BORNE, not BORN. It's literally created from her. I guess I mean it both ways.
Yeah, I was I could take it the other way too.
Yeah, it's both ways. But that's weird for a tulpa to like spawn out of your body. It's also weird for a tulpa to start as a baby and grow. So when I think of a tulpa, I think of like you conjuring the thing and it is in its
existence
final state.
Is it, maybe this is just a different version of a tulpa?
Yes, I agree.
The growth
with
from infancy, because to that point, the children or the tulpas, the brood themselves had to have grown at a accelerated rate, because they had to have been like 10 when they went and attacked people.
See, like, I don't think that they were 10. I think that they were 5. I think that they arrested at the same age as Candy.
Oh, that's a good point, because they were all about the same size.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like, I don't know how long she has been in this place, but I don't think it's 5 years. I assume it was like in the last 6 months to a year, maybe.
Yeah, because Candy is like old enough to understand what's happening.
Yes. So I think in that context, like, what she is creating is accelerating or is growing at an accelerated rate.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So it's definitely not what you consider human.
No.
But it is something that is created in order to carry out her rage.
But I don't even think that that's right. Like, do you think that Nola was commanding them? Do you think that
No, I don't think she was purposely commanding them. I don't think it was intentional. I definitely don't. I think in terms of like it being a tulpa versus a poltergeist, I think that was like her emotions acting and not so much her cognitive, like what she's thinking, what she wants. So what she actually wants probably isn't her parents dead. It's probably closure from her parents.
Mm-hmm.
But what instead is the brood carrying out her rage.
Yeah.
But it is creating an emotional catalyst, because she's like, I'm not worried about the teacher anymore.
Right. So there is like feedback too coming from the brood, even if she doesn't know like literally what happened. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that like this is Tulpa meets motherhood. Like she's so focused on being a big part of her reason for being in therapy is like figuring out her place in her current family, like with Frank and with Candace. And so I think that she was so focused on motherhood that her like that's how her body like reacted to Raglan's therapy.
Yeah, if she had been at a different point in her life, how do you think it would have manifested?
Just more blisters.
Yeah. That would have done everyone a favor if it was just more blisters.
Just more blisters.
Could it have been like, but if she had created a different kind of tulpa, if it had been whenever she was meeting Frank and something went awry, like if their relationship didn't go well and they didn't actually get married and have a child together, do you think she would have created tulpas of her, like a significant other?
What do you mean created tulpas of a significant other?
Is it based on the time in her life when she has the final breakdown, or when she has that, I don't know, even when talking about Candace and at the beginning, the Dr. Burke being like, she's going to have a breakdown at some point. Is this the breakdown that Nola finally has? And then it just happens to be at the time and it's centered around Candace. But it could be having Candace and Candace being the age she was whenever she experienced her trauma. Oof. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm so sorry. One day we'll keep it only light and light only. Did you guys like the last one? I feel like Empty Man was a little bit lighter. Shit. I don't know. This was pretty light, except for like...
Until here at the end.
Sorry.
It's okay. We all had to experience feelings. I do think you're onto something with Nola having a breakdown at the same age, or as Candace is at the same age of her experiences. I think you're onto something there. Should we try to
wrap up? Yeah, we can.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. This has been Never Show the Monster. And next week we are talking about the Babadook. You all know it. You love it. If you don't know the meme about the woman who went to a Halloween party where she thought it was a costume party and she dressed up as the Babadook, but everybody else was more of a like grown-ups drinking wine vibe, look it up. It's a hit.
I thought you were going to talk about the Babadook being like a gay icon.
Oh, he's also a gay icon.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I love. We'll talk about both of those things more in depth in next week's episode.
Hopefully that'll be the lighter one.
And so Ryan Tate, who did our show art, just released a YouTube video about the creation of our show art, and it's super fun and it's super funny. You can search for him on YouTube.
Your term.
on your term.
Find it on your time, on your terms, on YouTube.
You can search for it on YouTube with Ryan Tate Art. That's the name of his channel. I will also put a link in the show description. And if you are liking the show, please remember to rate and review it. 5 stars, please. And we will see you next week to discuss the Babadook. And in the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at NoShowMonster, and you can email us at noshowmonster@gmail.com. Did we do it?
I think we did it.
Happy
Spookies!